early, it got to a point where they felt really hesitant to try to contest Gen G, especially if Gen G were able to get something off of a reset or get a small trade on the opposite side of the map. You'll be happy to know, Dracos, that the TF has been eliminated.
We found the answer. It didn't show up earlier in the series, but now that we're into game 4 and 30 champions are off the board, 36 now that we've exited the first phase of bans. T1 will finally hit the bench as an instant quirky pickup here. Wanting more power early on. Maybe playing for a prio bot lane, perhaps a flex option.
Yeah, could be mid for Faker as well. He has played it a little bit more recently than a few of our other mid laners.
Yeah, I feel like Quirky mid just hasn't really hit me. Hasn't felt good back when it was one of the strongest lane bullies. As T1 fans are, I'm pretty sure, cheering for this one, as there was,
okay,
as it locked in.
0 and 9, you can read it on the bottom of your screen.
I'm going out on a limb here. There was a large period of time, I'm talking years, where no matter what the state of this champion was, against Ruler, it was bad. It didn't matter if Gen G didn't look great at that point in time. Didn't matter if she wasn't in the meta, but this champion was permat against this man for a very, very long time. I love the Poppy pick up here, insanely strong, and a flex pick.
Incredibly clutch champion. We saw it used in a lot of different series, whether by Canyon or Keen, to find those incredible knockbacks, to find those clutch fight angles. But you said it yourself, right? I think all the Kalista mains of the world praying that Ruler can show us. Just one, somebody prove why this champion
just one more Kalista
is
game.
A prio, just one more Kalista game. Maybe that's the difference. Gosh. And while the Poppy is there, the Nocturne coming in, of course, Poppy doesn't really interact super well with the Nocturne. The spell shield can block the slam into the wall, or the ulti, and the W, the steadfast presence, will not stop his ulti, now paired alongside Faker's Orianna. Some powerful picks for T1.
And hopefully that cheer for Faker's Orianna came across. Again, this is one of his absolute signature picks, something he's super comfortable on, something we've seen him have success with at this very tournament already. And then there's the Renata coming in to partner with the Kalista. And that is a nice response, right? If you're trying to dive in potentially with this Nocturne Orianna combo, Renata ult deals with that very, very well.
And we get the Elise being banned away, obviously has dropped in prio, but still very strong in the 2v2, does well into the Renata as well. Wonder if we're going to see like Akali, Sylas, those type of champions banned. Akali obviously is one of the picks that if you can get to 6 and you ever get an Ian Orianna, she just does get blown up. Makes it really hard to play the game. The other option is if Gen G is willing to be a bit more creative. There is already so much dive on the enemy team. They basically are gonna have to go in. You can look towards things like the Swain is a champion, and even in this tournament we have seen actually used into these style of compositions as the Lee from Canyon. If you watched him play this tournament, you know.
Yep. Shout out to that baby!
Woo! I'm glad that baby has headphones in this crowd.
That's good parenting. Shout out to you guys, parents of said child. That was a big Simba moment for us here in Vancouver.
The Pyke respect ban coming out from Gen G. They do not want to deal with Keria on that pick. Again, Keria he not only has such a wide champion pool, but he excels on these things where he can get out on the map and really cause havoc as well as place down vision. The Aurora ban coming through against Chovy.
Just limiting some of the tools he has to kick fights off. Don't want to give something with that much mobility against the Nocturne too. Good timing obviously can mitigate so much of that upfront CC, even if the damage is hard to deal with. Now the debate from the side of Gen G. They need solo lanes. This feels like a logical place to go.
Chovy's Yone or Chovy's Akali. I'm not going to be mad either way. This is the matchup
What are we getting?
We see more often.
Ahri? All right.
It's going to be the Ahri instead. Pick has really been struggling. Even some of the players known for their impact on it, not able to quite hit the mark. It is good with the Poppy, but it is, I think, not quite what we were expecting. I was really looking at that Akali. Again, the pre-6 is really rough, but Nocturne doesn't have the biggest ganking pressure. And once you get to a first item, you can really take over inside.
It seems like Gen G want another pressure point on the map in the earlier stages of the game, maybe afraid about the Kalista Renata being targeted too much. Now an immediate Karma going to be locked in. So you've mentioned it so many times already today, Emily, but just highlighting it again. Bot lane prio, clearly #1 priority for T1 alongside getting Faker something he's comfortable on.
Yeah, T1, I always like them better when they are contesting over that bot lane prio. Again, to get Keria out on the map early, and Gragas for Doran will be that last pick up for T1.
What is it going to be for Keen here? Wondering if he wants to go for a more oppressive matchup. A lot of the tanks already taken out of the equation here. Old Keen would have gone for something maybe like the Gnar. Could be a setup here.
Okay.
There is still flex potential. Obviously, this Poppy can go towards the top
Poppy
lane.
top.
Are we going to get Canyon?
Oh!
Canyon said!
There's the polar bear. He's not phased. We are, though.
He's unfazed. Of course we would be phased, because it's Zed on an international stage at match point.
And you, outside of like maybe Keen on that Poppy, not going to have a great time, right? Like, all these champions are short range. They're very reliant on baseline, being able to just stat check the opponents, as we do see.
We talk about explosive mid games, explosive early games. No.
Level 1.
Explosive level 1.
Oh, observers.
Nocturne base stats are pretty strong. Zed level 1 is not great. You have the passive if you proc it on multiple people, but you can see Canyon already backing away. I think Gen.G don't want the straight up 5v5 level 1. Maybe happy to just lurk in the darkness, play for one of these picks.
And this Gragas for Doran, a pick that was, to this very day, is a very hot topic of discussion. Did Doran deserve a finals MVP in spring 2023 for his performance on this champion specifically?
To this day? That was so long ago.
No. I'm serious. Every single time when it's, we're done with an LCK final, goes back to this discussion, because he was unexpected in that series. That is where the Doran beat Zeus myth started. This T1.
Chovy. Good damage, immediate flash out from Chovy, but a nice advantage to start. Charm to follow. Handshake back, and they go. Massive damage on the carry, and they get the kill. It's first blood for Ruler.
Kalista, first blood. Ruler's Kalista getting first blood. That's massive for Gen.G.
And it's again Keen, I think, and Gen.G reading T1. Because why is Poppy still there? It's because they had a sinking suspicion that T1 was going to try something, and they did.
And that was a gambit. If they had gotten nothing, Poppy would have burned TP to go back to lane for nothing, but the fact that they got that kill means the gamble has paid off. Ruler hasn't been able to spend that gold yet, but he's happy to just try to start asserting dominance on the bottom side of the map, knowing he has control of the wave, knowing how powerful Kalista can be early on.
And you know, whenever these teams face each other, it's always going to be an amazing time, right? But I've loved watching how in tune they are with what their opponents are going to do. A play like that doesn't happen if Gen.G haven't played this T1 team so many times.
Zed's jungle clear, absolutely ludicrous. Particularly against a Nocturne. Any camp you can steal is a big deal. Nocturne is so gated by his early power spike, hitting that level 6 when you truly become a champion. And Canyon is not only going to get the blue buff, but with the speed that he has on the clear, I think, especially if Owner just does this, he is going to get Grump as well.
Canyon getting the advantage here. Big early item spikes, early XP advantages. You talked about it. Any early edge is just a massive advantage for either one of these junglers, and Canyon happy to steal a few camps away. Downside is Chovy's suffering a bit in the mid lane. Expected early on against the Orianna, but doing his best to just hold on while his jungler starts to pull ahead.
And the problem for Owner, I might look for the invade, but his bot lane does not have prio. Because of the level 1, they were set pretty far behind, so he's going to go in. Mid lane can't roam, but bot lane definitely could.
Canyon ready to defend here. Sustained damage favors Owner.
No smite.
But it'll be tough. Without smite to contest. Owner's uncertain though. I don't think he has the information. Faker on the way first. Resetting though, taking time.
Chovy's TPing in. They have to let this go.
And credit, Gen.G bot lane going to concede some of the control they had over their lane just to make sure that Canyon can grab another camp, that he can 3-buff Owner in this early game.
Yeah, and that is an extension, again, of the level 1, the Kalista and the Renata being able to get prio over this lane, and it's just fantastic for Canyon, right? Because you are looking at him to be a major damage dealer. You're looking at him to be a major playmaker in a lot of these team fights.
And I'm willing to give a champion a lot of benefit of the doubt. Okay, Kalista was already on thin ice, but in this game where you literally start with a kill in the first minute, and it's Gen.G, Ruler specifically on this champion, this is the final test case.
And the thing I want to call back to, Azael showed at the start of the day a quote from an interview with Ashley Kang and Horizon talking about how Chovy was comfortable playing against T1, and I think we have seen that across this entire series. No surprise Barons, the level 1 they were prepared for, and it does feel like this lineup is just so well equipped to go toe-to-toe with a T1 that most other teams in the world can't seem to find the performance against.
And Chovy is the only member on the roster that has stayed the same since that started happening, right? Since we go back to 2022 summer, when Ruler won his first title with a completely different roster back then. And we do see that domestically, Chovy has just been incredible in this matchup.
But the big thing I'm looking at now, especially with Gen.G on match point in this game, is they're still, they have not won a series against T1 internationally, right? This would be the first time that would happen.
It would be big. Again, easier said than done. A positive start to the game isn't enough to close it out. T1, a team that always seems to find a way back in. Ruler and Duro doing what they can to hold on to mid lane, excuse me, bot lane control. And in mid lane, both racing faster as flashes traded. Keen and Doran fishing for any angle that they can find, and now it's Canyon on the bottom side. Guma so low. Guma so low. Zed in, can't quite get the auto off. Crucially, Guma quick to walk his way out, but he wants one more. Ruler can't get it. Bit of a fumble there from the side of Gen.G. Guma stone cold.
Not even going to use a summoner. Holding on to Flash and Cleanse. Big win there for the T1 bot lane. Now that does mean that Gen.G going to be looking towards taking this Drake very early on. Obviously, this is, I want to say, one of the first time we've seen a Kalista comp actually get an early dragon. Will be starting off the snowball well for Gen.G. And I do think, again, I want to highlight, I think both these teams, once you start falling behind, Karma feels really rough, Nocturne can feel really rough. T1 need to make sure, if we want to get to game 5, that this game doesn't snowball further.
Yeah, and that is actually the first time that Gen.G has been able to claim that first Drake in this series, right? Because of T1's bot lane pressure, because they were putting so much focus on Drake stacking, and in particular getting that first Drake fairly early on in the game. And so that's a big, not big momentum shift for Gen.G, but it's a little bit of a shift from the series that we've already seen with them up 1 kill and the objective at under 7 minutes.
But you can see, again, Chovy the one who continues to suffer. Faker holding the wave in an excellent spot. But Canyon,
Owner's level 5.
Chovy's behind in the mid lane play. Needs to be careful. Forced to ulti, but Canyon still stepping forward, unafraid. Has access to the death mark, but it's a smite for Owner to steal the camp away. And again, as good as Canyon is doing, as active as he has been on the map, as good as bot lane is doing, Chovy the one giving up more and more, and Duro and Canyon trying to make up for it. Nice handshake. Faker's here in a good position. Decent damage going through. Follow-up Shockwave only connecting onto one, and that's going to be big because it's Canyon to the backline trying to finish off Faker. Flash through! Ruler gets the job done. That's the initial ulti out. Bailout is there as well. Owner flashing to safety. He'll manage to survive. Ruler in the back line. Ruler shielded up and finding the kills. Gen.G get everything they need in that exchange.
And it starts off with a lot of whiffs, but in a longer fight, that is where the Kalista Renata wants to play. Get value of the bailout, get value of the spears, and despite Chovy's flash charm not working out, Canyon wreaking havoc in the back line.
That's so devastating. The Nocturne Orianna, the first time you get both access to those ultis, it should have been able to bail you out of the deficit you were in, and it has only gotten worse.
Yeah, and as we see, like you said, Chovy doesn't actually work out, but the Shockwave only lands onto Chovy, and that gives Canyon complete access to this backline. Even with the Nocturne ult coming out, Owner barely escapes. Now Doran could be in trouble.
Body slam back. Bomba to try to walk away. Needs to still be clean on the footwork. Gen.G not going to overpush. Again, only a 600, 700 gold lead, but not the kind of lead you want to give away to the Ahri, Kalista, Zed composition.
Only upside there is that Owner was able to pick up a stack on that Ultimate Hunter, so he's going to reduce his cooldown, but Canyon snowballing early on, definitely a big deal. Really, the only reliable CC you have onto the Zed is Doran, right? You're talking about the body slam, you're talking about the cask. Outside of that, who actually deals with this Zed? Unless he W's into, you know, a Shockwave, Karma needs a leash, Owner needs a leash on the Nocturne. I don't think Canyon is really going to give you those opportunities, so if he does get too far ahead, we've already seen Gen.G play towards him pretty heavily, pick up an early kill, it could become an unanswerable issue for T1. Still have the global pressure of this Nocturne though, and maybe Owner can use that to turn this game around.
Might have to be the angle. Long cooldown on level 1 of that ultimate. As Ruler and Duro make their home on the top side of the map. Ruler was a bit behind there in experience for a moment, but Not a big enough lead for Guma quite yet. The early Sheen will help things out. Zakaria makes his way up to the top side, needs to get some more value out of this Karma pick. Good news for T1. So resets coming through means they have more members on the top side of the map. Rubs for now uncontested as Canyon might be looking mid lane. Ulti over the wall, that's gonna be the death mark. Faker trying to get tricky, trying to get his way out, but Canyon hits everything! Ulti follow, trying to get something back onto Chovy. Owner still going forward. Doran on the way in. They're desperate to kill Chovy, but Chovy still manages to live for an extra moment. Bomba gets the job done. And T1 fire back.
Good counterpunch, but look at the top side.
Yeah, Kalista is going to get free push onto this turret. Both Ruler and Canyon are going to be accelerated, and Keen is getting damage on this bot side as well. Also, Tarzan should, or oh my gosh, not Tarzan. I saw Zed and I thought Tarzan. Canyon should be able to clean up, yeah, this grub, which also stops. T1 will get the feet, but they, GenG will stop the might.
Glad to have a little bit back there. 1K gold lead for GenG. Not a great sign for T1 in this game. Did get value out of that ultimate coming in for Owner, but you can see for Faker, he's kind of just powerless against this line of play.
Canyon in range to just be able to ult on top of him as soon as he hits the W. Faker steps a little bit too far up, and then this is nicely done here by Doran. They really need this kill to work out. Because looking at the side waves, obviously they're in a rough spot. If you don't even get that trade, Doran still makes his way over, doesn't actually get that kill. The play is just a disaster. Instead, he is looking to have to be the hero here. And Ruler, as long as he has flash, as long as he has his barrier available, I think should be relatively safe. But that might be the type of play we're looking towards. Doran splitting up a fight, getting someone in position so that the rest of T1 can wombo combo the way to a teamfight win.
And now that this bot lane is down here, we're going to see Canyon, after he cleans up the Scuttle Crab, potentially going to get that second Drake, kind of start their proper Drake stacking here. Owner is just around the corner.
Duro has his ultimate as well.
Debating if they can contest. Not enough information, but GenG don't want to risk anything. Know the power of this combo. 5 seconds away on Owner's ultimate.
Doran's there.
Canyon clearing out the vision. Both junglers see each other. Owner now losing that vision. Chovy ready to go in at a moment's notice. Attacking the Orianna would make the combo that much harder, but Doran's ready to body block.
Might be a 5v5. Both Keen and Doran are here. T1 want to try and not give GenG the opportunity to just keep stacking these Drakes, but see if they can turn onto Keen.
Looking to find the angle onto Keen, hoping to find the knockback. Hits two members. An opportunity for GenG to go crazy, and Chovy immediately also get things kicked off. Dashing in. Shockwave hits two. Bomba back into the lineup. But Duro with a beautiful ultimate buys a few extra seconds. Ready now to go in as Owner pops the ulti. Darkness on the side of GenG. They know they've lost the exchange, but T1 won't push for any more.
Wow, what a combination coming through from the Gragas and the Orianna to really set up that fight. Now T1 are going to have Faker TPing in, and I don't think GenG should contest.
Still have the ulti on Canyon, but you're completely correct. It's just so hard to get into the pit without giving your life. T1 happy to tie up the Drakes. An excellent fight in their favor.
And that's a massive punch landed from T1. They stop a Drake that previously looked like it was definitely going to be GenG's. They get Prio over this mid lane. Top wave is pushing in, so they'll have to deal with that in a little bit. But as we see, this is the absolute power of that Gragas Orianna combo, and just a really smart move to end up turning on to Keen.
What happens here is Chovy wanting to go for a big play, and the fact that both Duro as well as Chovy get caught just on the edge there means that this fight is over before Ruler's here. I actually think if Ruler is there from the beginning with those health bars, with the bailout, that fight is salvageable, but that was a must-win moment for T1. They get the combo. GenG isn't allowed to just further snowball, and with how explosive these two combos are, I think we're going to see a lot of fights like that. Find one target, blow them up, go from there.
And as tanky as Keen will be, the rest of the lineup's so squishy. If that shockwave connects, and it is hard to connect, but if it does, easy to see the angle in which they win the fight. Canyon on the way forward. Shockwave there from Faker. Just gets the chunk. Not really approaching an objective, so we'll just force Duro back. Thought that they might be able to grab a little bit more. Owner was just a few seconds away from the ultimate to maybe try and finish the kill.
When we talk about the lack of CC on T1, I have to do the same for GenG. There is Charm. There was Handshake,
yep,
and Poppy.
Yep.
That's it. There's not a whole lot for them. Obviously, they do have a lot of damage, so maybe they're going for the angle of the best CC is just taking down your opponent. But that disengage from T1 might be a big thorn in their side as this Drake stacking has been stopped. I also think Ocean Drake, neither team is really going to prioritize that quite as much. Both these comps are so burst heavy. I don't think there's a lot of scenarios where you really get a lot of value unless you're really looking towards late game stalemates, which I think with these comps, I don't think we're going to get there.
It's also really interesting because whoever goes in first, depending on how many members of the opposing team are there, they have the tools to deal with it, right? Like Gragas is a great disengage. Orianna Shockwave can have a great disengage. You then have the Ahri charm, right? The Kalista ult, the Renata ult, the Poppy. There's so much on both of these teams to be able to deal with whoever dives in first. So if it is really close, it's going to be heavily dependent on bursting down those key targets.
Canyon seems to be the key target for now. Ulting to try to get away, but the Fear Tether still connects.
Whew.
Such a good punish there, because what they see is Canyon using his W to try and harass Keria. Keria's like, I'm Karma, I don't care. And the moment that Owner sees him use that ability, gets the ult off, Fear Tether hits, it's a big win for T1.
Yeah, they're going to end up getting Herald. They're also going to be able to reset this map with Gragas already kind of pushing into the Ahri, and Faker going up to cover that topside wave. This game is going to be so close.
Absolutely is. And I just shout out to Carey. I think good adaptation coming in here, picking up the Shurelya's, that extra movement speed. We mentioned it, both teams lacking that engage option, the ability to push that button, either follow up and chase, or just walk away. If Gen G whiff, fumble, make a misstep is a big boon for the side of Gen G. T1 now, moving to the bottom side. Doran feeling very confident this game, and again, it's not the full tanky Gragas, it's AP. He is going to hit hard. Chovy has to be careful.
Chovy also not finishing his first item, 60 minutes in. He's been playing a lot more for these really aggressive plays on the Ahri, but thus far hasn't really been able to get too much going. A lot of the disengage from T1 ended up playing a big part there, and with these Drakes, we'll see if either team is happy to just give it up and maybe look for some damage towards the turret. Looking at the spikes, I think a second item spike for Canyon in particular is a big deal as Keen.
Trying to get a few more cooldowns out of Keen. Ulti there, just barely able to escape Keen.
Look at Owner, doesn't have a blue trinket, or maybe he does, but he has Herald, so can't actually get vision.
You could see he was waiting to see if he'd be able to jump in. And that might give Gen G a little bit of reprieve as they're going to try to make a play on the Doran.
Flash out from Doran. Damn takey there as he takes a drink. Double TPs. One from each side. Trying to match. So Doran able to walk away. Flash the major cooldown. Chovy hits the charm. Bob, and this time it's the real death mark. Canyon falling. One more auto. Blinking elf bar. Ticking death mark procs. It's just not enough damage.
Might be enough though. Faker just TP'd in, so they might have a numbers advantage looking towards that second dragon. I don't know if T1 want to look for too aggressive. Oh, am I kidding? It's T1. They're going to look for an aggressive contest.
And I mean, crucially for the side of T1, Seraphs had just ticked over for Faker before that fight started, or even during that fight. I didn't quite catch it. So that shield really doing a great job keeping him alive as Gen G now feel like they need to force this objective. Have an advantage briefly as Faker sprints back onto the map, but they're not starting it. That advantage is going to fade. Herald used. Gen G returning back to mid lane to try and cover here.
And I like this from T1, right? Like heralding to get that mid prio. They have the Nocturne Orianna comp up, or they're not going to go mid.
Keria. I don't think he meant to get in the Herald, and he knew that if he hit that tower, he would die. So I think that was the...
Or he's aura farming. We don't simply know.
Farming.
As the Dragon is going to go to T1, full control of the river, and particularly with an Ocean Rift, trying to regain control when you lost it as the Gen G comp is very, very tough. Lot of really good flank angles for this Gragas, and that's now the second Drake going over to T1, and even though the early game looked to go Gen G's way, T1 slowly getting further and further ahead in this game number 4.
Yeah, T1 should be able to, again, reset, set this map up how they want. Like you mentioned, it's so hard to check into all of these extra brushes, and T1, they already have some nice control on this bot side, even though Gen G have those wards in there. And now they're moving up into this top side with Keria and Faker.
1 minute until the Otacon. Only 500 gold between the two teams. It's been damn close the entire game, but it is the early lead for GENG dissipating as T1 just continue to find favorable exchanges. Doran comfortable on the bottom side, only 8 stacks on the row, but has also picked up the Seekers. He is really set up to make a lot of plays in this game.
And with that Drake take as well, T1 have grabbed the objective feat, so now it's basically whoever takes down first turret is going to end up getting the feats of strength.
We have Canyon spotted towards the bottom half of the map. Chovy just now finishes his Roa, only or just takes over to the second stack, but still not going to be feeling great, especially with that Electrocute Ari. Wonder what the next item is going to be. This is the type of game where he has a decent amount of damage, but with Keen going for a more bruisery build, but still, I think Ari has already struggled a lot. A lot of these Roa builds just not seemingly having the impact. Keen trying to look for the stun on the wall, doesn't quite find it, and both teams, I think, looking towards the Otacon. Summoners that are available, basically all of them. The flash for Doran, that is a big one that is still down. TP for both top laners, basically on the same timer. Faker is a little ahead of Chovy, but I don't know if that'll matter because both of them are already in that top side lane, making sure that the enemy team can't go for an Otacon play.
We talked about how the team that gets ahead, that finds that first really significant advantage, should just be able to run away with this. But the little bit of an advantage that GENG had, T1 were able to weather. Double Seekers, mid and top solo lanes for T1, well equipped, limiting the amount of options for Canyon to attack. Guma, the most vulnerable member, but has Keria standing beside him. This next fight, it feels like similar to the previous game, even though we've had a lot of blood, it's all building up to this one crucial team fight.
Target selection is hard because there are 2 arm guards on T1, so actually getting on top of someone, not an easy task.
Definitely not. You can see here, Canyon getting a lot of gold in the Coinbase gold grind. And now we're setting up again. This time, though, it's T1 in the driver's seat. T1 taking control of the vision, not looking to give these creative angles of attack, and so much hinges on Canyon or Chovy being able to find these flanks, maybe even Keen. It just doesn't seem like an option as Faker's just walking up and hitting this tower completely unafraid.
Owner might be looking to dive this, potentially, but now won't with Canyon in the area.
W used by Canyon, saw that earlier was an opportunity. Owner walking up. I think at first didn't see Duro, but obviously Duro, even if he handshakes in, it's not going to do a lot. Second item done for Owner, by the way, sitting on Cleaver. Canyon hasn't finished his. Not ready yet. Finished his boots first instead. And neither team wanting to be the first one because there is so much damage available. The lack of resistances can be so insanely big of a deterrent because if you do get shredded, if Zed gets like one big E, you're just gone.
Yeah, both of these teams can have so much burst, as we already called out, kind of the Seekers. It's going to make things a bit more difficult for GENG, and if they do get any sort of advantage in these fights, that's where I am looking at Ruler's Callista to be able to do more sustained damage over time with her Ren stacks.
The tension, because if GENG get like Otacon, win a fight, that might be all they need to just break this game down. Again, get into that controlling position we saw them get into. T1 already wanting to bring us to a game number 5. Silver scrapes between these two. I don't think anyone is going to be complaining about that.
Except for GENG.
Love the game.
Love of the game.
You think they'd say that?
They've played a lot of game 5s.
This is true.
That's true. T1. Briefly at a man disadvantage as GENG try to vie for control here. Ruler taking a bit of poke, but has sustained, courtesy of the way of the Rune King, as Chovy tries to get things kicked off. Flash and the ulti used, but does manage to get Flash out of Faker. Meantime, Greg is still just pushing on the top side. Chovy going in, looking for the charm, doesn't connect, anticipating a backstep that wasn't there. Faker stone cold, just keeps walking.
And the rest of T1 also not phased. Doran is just pushing in topside. Will be getting the first turret there.
They get the boots.
Nicely done from T1, just kind of dragging that out, right? As they were both posturing, poking around. Doran ends up taking that top tier 1, and now he's TPing into the bot side to push this wave in, but also potentially he can look for a flank here.
Definitely can for now, marked by Chovy, but Chovy ultless in the fight to come. Guma stepping up big damage onto Duro. And T1 are just chipping away at GENG's cooldowns. They got the tower,
Doran.
They got the ulti, and now Doran hungry for a little bit more. For now, just zoning off as the objective has started. Sole point for T1 in their eyes.
We see them posturing, maybe looking towards a play for that Otacon, but it's on vision. Owner very easily can get access. Keria and Faker already making their way over, and T1 kind of doing to Gen G what Gen G did to them in game number 3, just slowly choking them out of the game.
Yeah, and the threat for the picks that can come through from T1, but in addition, the poke damage coming out of this Corki has actually been really crucial. That's what kind of pushed Gen G, pressured them off of that mid wave, allowed T1 to immediately go in. Now they're on Soul Point. Gen G were not able to trade a tier 1 up here, right? They didn't leave the Poppy there to take that down. So really nice map play from T1, kind of whittling down these health bars enough that they could go in and take control.
Completely agree, and it's so frustrating if you're Ruler. You draft this knowing the Corki is already there, expecting probably that it goes into bot lane, although it was technically a flex. You get the early advantages. You find the early kill. You have better pressure, but it just has not mattered after we've gotten out of that lane phase. Gumayushi just seems so much more powerful. The poke leveraged so well, and now Gen G want to up the pace of the game. They've started the Otacon. Carry a quick control ward over the wall to spot what's happening here. And Gen G just backing off, but perhaps baiting the trap. T1 don't have perfect information. The ward doesn't spot far enough. Now Doran will see what's happening. Chovy waiting over the wall. Flash in from the Gragas, getting things ticked up. For now, Ruler untouched on the backside. Canyon already out of the fight. And keep your eyes on Ruler as he starts to run rampant. Throws Duro back into the mix of the entire exchange. Ruler ready to take over, but the knockback is huge! Ruler goes down, buys a couple extra seconds. They need to finish off Doran so he can live, and then manage to make it work. Gen G holding on. 2 stacks up for Chovy. Retreat going in. Big damage from Guma as the big one finds its target. Keen off on the side. Gets feared up, locked up. Owner finding the kill. The charm on the Faker is big, but it's not enough damage to finish the job.
And Gen G read the engage to come through from Doran. They're ready, and the counterpunch is lethal.
And the most important thing is that Faker wasn't there for that fight, right? His TP hadn't come up, so he had to end up walking all the way up to Otacon where T1 were contesting. He was a little bit late there, so they didn't have that kind of shockwave to be able to add on. As you see, Faker is still down here on the map, and it's going to take him a while to get in.
A little bit of extra damage, a shockwave there as Doran find that engage. That could have been the game winner. That could have just been it. They get Otacon, they're able to make the play work. Instead, they are able to knock away the Nocturne. Orianna isn't in any point in this fight, and the build, I want you to look at the timing right there. That stopwatch almost ends up winning the fight for T1, but instead Ruler gets the reset, he stays alive. Keen happily gives his life because now Otacon goes the way of Gen G, but it's not enough of a win, a decisive fight win for Gen G. T1 still on the lead, and they currently still sitting on Soul Point.
You're right, it's not decisive enough, and in fact it's scary, because even when Faker wasn't there and you knock Owner out of the fight entirely, you still lost in terms of raw damage. You lost in the context of champion v champion. You did get the objective, and that is something for Gen G, but it's not getting easier.
Yeah, I think it gets really scary, and as we see, even though Canyon had kind of a good start, right? Owner has pretty much like stayed even or almost ahead. He actually did hit 2 items first. He'll be able to contest really, really well, especially when he's able to shut off the lights and kind of create chaos. So Gen G won't be able to necessarily find the target selection that they want, right? So after a pretty good start for this Zed and Kalista, it's looking really scary for Gen G.
I want to highlight as well, Chovy just continually going for these plays. It really reminds me of what Faker did on the Sylas, right? The amount of ease and chains he missed didn't end up mattering. He was still able to make big impact, and Chovy has been very vocal. These 2 players have just been at the heart of so much of the LCK's narrative, right? The back and forth. And Chovy wants to have the same level of consistent clutch. As we said at the top of the day, it's the most clutch player of all time versus the current best player in Chovy. Thus far, the charms haven't been hitting, but he has been fishing. And how fitting would it be if T1 are then able to just respond in a way that Chovy still can't find what he's looking for.
And Faker is going to be able to clean up this bot tier 1 as well, while they're posturing around mid, right? They're getting poke damage down. Guma and Keria are starting to look really scary, and they've been able to pressure and kind of force Gen G to respond, while Faker just takes a free turret on the bot side.
T1 keeping the siege going in mid lane as well. Really just unafraid of what Gen G have. Other than the charm, all of their engage so very telegraphed. And I think it's a good highlight, right? And we've seen Faker expected to be beaten out in mid lane, potentially handedly by Chovy if he was in peak form, but they've just kept putting him on these control mages, and despite the fact that Gen G clearly know what's coming, they really just have not been able to break this mid lane open. Is now good initial start to the fight, but there's no follow-up. Doran can't get past the minion line. Doesn't have flash.
Ruler
Yeah.
with Terminus, he's strong, but sitting on only half health.
A lot of poke damage onto Ruler. Should be able to get them prio. Drake is up, but Gen G are headed towards this top side and onto this Baron.
Ready to kick things off. That little ward, that sliver of health might be the difference. Canyon waiting over the wall. Duro needs a good ulti here. Shockwave into the midst of the team is a decent start to the fight. Duro managing to get the ult out. It's chaos in the pit. The shutdown onto Owner is crucial. AK on the Baron and it's dropping. T1 want to keep this fight going. They don't want to risk the 50-50. They shouldn't have to. 5K, eyes on the prize for Gen G. It's a split call. Chovy starts to dive into the backline. 2K on the objective. Doran in the midst of everything. He can't get it done. In the end, the Baron goes to the side of Gen G. They found their moment and they took it.
That looked so dicey for Gen G. Initially, they're able to get Owner out, damage him enough that they could stay on that Baron.
Ooh, the Rebel Baron power play there for Gen G. Can they use it to get back to the Drake in time? Because getting Drake, but giving over, or rather getting Baron, giving over Soul, I don't think is worth the empowered bases, plus the fact that the jungler is dead, should mean that they get this. And Gen G, powerful counterpunch this deep into the game.
Yeah, you see they're pinging on it. Faker is going to be able to clear up this tier 1 in mid, but they're already TPing in. They really need to get this. Nocturne is back on the board, though, and Owner's ult is almost back up.
3 seconds and counting. Shockwave there as well. Flash ability for Owner if he wants to go over the wall, but 50-50 doesn't seem a likely story with Kalista in the game. Instead, Gen G take down the Drake, get themselves to 2. T1 still at soul point, but they'll also knock down the mid lane tower, and this is where the Red Bull Baron power play really can start to open up the gold lead for the side of Gen G.
Canyon now fully online as well, has the Serpent's Fang available. As we take another look, I think that T1 pulled the trigger on the combo too early, because yes, they get on top with perfect timing of Ruler, but look at the ult that comes through from Duro that just stalls for so long. They turn onto Owner in a split second, and Ruler is just spearing up behind all of this.
Yeah, the Kalista is able to get all those Ren stacks in, and also importantly, the Poppy punted out Faker. So they did get the combo off, but then again, he had to walk back in to continuously do damage in this fight, and that ends up being a massive difference maker.
A little bit of frustration. Joy from Helper, unsurprisingly.
We need a helper cam.
That was the shortest response of Joy I've ever seen. He was immediately back locked in.
But I think a little bit of story time for Gen G, because it was Game 4 last year semifinals. Keen, completely monstrous. It was Canyon on Nidalee, a similar champ that we don't always expect to see, finding a way back, finding these fights, and it was little missteps that ended up costing them that game. Now here, in a much better, much more comfortable position, match point belonging to them. See now if they can close it out, or if T1 can weather the storm.
And T1 re-engage is still there. And after Spect, Faker sitting on his actual Zhonya's, but Doran has just been stuck on components for a while.
And Poppy isn't here, so this is a 4v5 with the 5 base defense from T1. While Ruler is going to end up joining Keen in that mid lane, they're going to try to keep pushing these tier 2 turrets down.
Unfortunately for Gen G, even with Nash, their siege isn't great, right? Like, we
very
have,
short range.
it's very, very short range. If they can get up to a turret, particularly with Kalista, they can get through it quickly. But you can see T1 have a ton of range wave clear. They're using it very, very well. Maybe looking for a pick, but T1, they're not going to fall for that.
Important. Gotta do your due diligence. Charm gonna hit. Ulti across the top. Doran rooted up at a good response. Ulti coming in from Owner. Means that there's nothing that Gen G can do to try and finish that kill.
We go again. Shockwave still up.
Shockwave connecting onto Duro. Decent poke damage. Keen from behind manages to knock the Gragas out of the picture. Owner might be in trouble, but Keen not able to get down the follow-up. We'll just back away.
Ooh, don't forget, there is no Baron buff. Chovy goes in again.
Charm connects, but again, no follow-up. You can tell how eager Gen G are to just get a little bit more of an advantage so they can start to break open more towers, but they cannot find it.
And without the Baron buff, they just can't see. So it's either diving, which obviously, even with, if you got 2 people, not just Doran, I think they can look for the dive. But they can't. They have to just reset. And that means that T1 just gets another opportunity at a straight 5v5 towards this next dragon.
Yeah, really nice base defense from T1, and they're actually still ahead in turrets to Gen G, even after that attempted siege. Now, I do believe that Chovy should be able to push in this top wave and probably get that top tier 1 down soon. It is pretty damaged, but you can see kind of how when these compositions go up against each other in that situation, it's so hard for Gen G to actually take down structures. They need a fight. They need to take someone out.
100%. And I think the struggle for them is the opposite is not necessarily true for T1. The threat of the long-range non-committal engage from the Gragas, the poke from an Orianna and a Corki means that if T1 find themselves in a similar position, it'll be pretty impossible for Gen G to hold on without just going all in at the first opportunity.
Even the barrels from Doran, right? Like, you pretty much have poke coming out of every single one of these champions here. Whoa.
Hold that up. It's okay. If we didn't do a Raz, they couldn't see when we accidentally alt-tabbed out of the draw, Ethan.
It's fine. I've been drawing too much anyway. It's all good.
Right
Anyway,
now,
a lot of poke.
item finishes, therefore, really the entire roster. Ruler just now finishing his Jack Show, so he's actually very beefy. Serpent's Fang for Canyon. Look at Chovy now also having his arm guard available. A flanking ward to come through here. Chovy behind him.
Chovy ready to go, looking for Faker. He goes golden, instantaneous reaction speed. Keen now gonna look for some form of disengage. The Poppy on the front lines. Excellent ulti coming in from Doro, but it doesn't do too much. Chovy ready to go over the wall one more time, but he's warded out this time. T1 are ready. Ulti for ulti. Tried to flash it. Doro wants to make the difference, but it doesn't quite connect. And instantaneously, Canyon goes in, finds the follow-up damage. Chovy taking down Doran. T1 on the retreat. Gen G still standing strong. Only Doran deleted.
The threat of these Chovy charms is huge, and you saw even there where Doran kind of tried to get in, tried to separate. Gen G had the perfect response. That Renata ult was also massive from Duro.
Look at the timing here on the Owner's ultimate. I think this Dragon is definitely going to be gone, but T1 wouldn't be T1 if they're not going to try and at least contest. There is still a ward in the pit. I'm shocked that Gen G haven't cleared that.
No ulti, no flash.
Oh,
Seems like they're just not worried.
Fast enough.
Baron also in their sights. Big moment. Tied up soul point to soul point.
Oh, and Doran. That play onto Ruler, if there is slightly earlier follow-up and Ruler doesn't get the flash, that wins him the game. That's just the end right there. They're able to get Soul. They're probably able to get Baron off of that as well. But Ruler survives, and Gen G looking at another Baron.
5 seconds on Doran. Has TP available, but no flash. Guma with flash. Faker with flash. They have tools. They can just find the angle. But Gen G not going to overcommit here. Want to get their resets. T1 happy to reclaim a bit of control over the Baron pit, although really taking their time. They know that a single pick at this point could just end the game in the favor of Gen G.
This is so tense. I'm like sitting here gripping the table.
I think it's okay.
It's the mountain
No, it's
pressure.
fun. It's a good kind of tense, right? Because like any of these team fights can just be really explosive.
It's also a good reminder that we can take a breath. You know, it's just one of the few opportunities.
Breathing sometimes
no
overrated,
taking
bro.
breaths. We're gonna stay tense because I imagine the players are feeling the same way. Baron is up now. T1 most likely screaming in comms to try and find some opportunity there. Don't forget that disengage is still great with the Gragas and the threat, the zone control of the Orianna. They can just start up that objective, try and bring us to a game 5 in that classic T1 fashion. But it feels like Gen G at this point have just read that play too many times, and I think that's why T1 are hesitant to go for it. There are so many beefy targets on Gen G, right? Even with the build he's gone for, Chovy is actually very hard to kill. Same for Keen. Arguably even Ruler if he gets to stack up that Terminus.
Can be a tough target to take down. Doran, Faker, posturing, fishing. Again, the potential with their ultis to turn a fight is massive, but the same can be said of Keen. Not afraid to frontline, knows.
Mirroring vision.
Chovy's gonna show on this top wave.
Shirellia's popped. Chovy showing. Barrel sidestep. Keen goes in. Now Ruler's uncontested. Look at the damage coming out of this Kalista already. Owner forced to ultimate. Canyon on the way out, but he goes right back. And he brings him in. The combo only connects on one. Chovy on the side. Eyes on the Ahri, but he's not able to find anything. One more dash, all that's left. Doran getting lower. Gumayushi still standing strong. Gen G. Redemption bringing them back healthy. T1 hurt, but not out of it.
Close.
No one has died. Doran can TP in fresh.
Chovy the last dash out. Shockwave gone, ulti's gone across the board, the Poppy ult. Keen, eyes on him, can he make the difference? 5K, objective getting lower. Ulti there, spell shield there, I can't get into the pit, they cannot find it. Keen continuing to walk up, Canyon secures it with the smite. Ruler knocked back for a moment and down goes Doran.
T1 still looking.
Baker does not want to give them the chance to back to reset.
Combo's almost available again.
Wants to keep the fight going. Gen G Ruler wants to push the wave on the side.
Canyon.
T1, if they bet wrong here with the wave already pushing, it could cost them the game.
That vision.
Canyon threatening. Shadows out. Now the ulti. But they take their time, they're waiting on the retreat. They saw the W use, they're gonna force the flash as well. Keen continues to go in. Big damage, shockwave back, Keen! Over eager and shut down! T1 playing on the edge. Ruler diving forward with the Pierce. Not to find a target. So much of the Baron buff now wasted as they're not able to push for more.
Chovy wasn't there. The only upside for Gen G is that this is most likely going to lead into them getting prio on this dragon. They are at soul point already. We're 40 minutes in. 6 dragons have been taken. Gen G, with how drawn out these fights are, I take back what I said about the Ocean Soul. That is going to do some serious work because these fights have been so long. How many people actually, like 2 throughout the entire sequence?
We keep looking at it, expecting it to be this pick into kills for the side of Gen G or this perfect combo for T1, but because these ultis aren't connecting on 5 people, the fight is always drawn out. It's always about the smallest margins, and Ocean Soul can make all the difference.
Ruler now has a GA as well, so he'll have that locked in for the next fight, which could end up being massive if they can keep him alive.
He'll have his flash as well. That's now going to be up. There's also Edge of Night for Canyon, both offensive and defensive, so strong. Allow you to go way deeper into the backline, and T1 do not have vision control. They barely have control of their own jungle. As we can see, here is where the vision line ends.
Observers beautifully highlighting with the Fog of War toggle, thank you. Nothing is what T1 see. Dorn has to be careful to step forward here, and again,
5 seconds.
It's T1 with their backs against the wall. They do not want to give up this Ocean Soul. It is match point for Gen G, but they know any bad fight they take could end it. Still poking, still prodding.
Ooh. Canyon, that's a lot of damage. They are not using the Baron buff though. There is no threat towards the turrets. They're not side laning, not wanting to run any risk in the Nocturne.
Keen acting as that bouncer to the back line. Does not want to let anyone in from the side of T1, but the combo from the Nocturne Orianna will always be lethal. Ruler starting the objective. It won't be a 50-50 on the smite. It's going to take a miracle. Ocean Drake, Ocean Soul secured, and now Chovy goes in. They manage to get the Zhonya's out immediately, and Owner's going to try to fire back, but he can't get anything else done. Canyon posturing on the side, and T1 uncertain of where they can go, but Doran sees the angle clearly. Deathmark in. Shockwave! Flawlessly timed as Guma now gets the shutdown. Keen looking for the disengage. Ruler untouched as he starts to take over. Doran forced backwards by the hostile takeover. The pullback and the handshake is good, and Chovy now in trouble, but it does not matter. Guma going in, quick cleanse. Chovy going golden. Duro not in a great spot to follow up, and it's Ruler. It's Ruler versus the world, but T1 are not going to give him the angle. They group up. They stand strong. Doran going in. Doran not able to find it. It's Soul for the side of Gen G, but T1 for now ahead in kills. They found 2. If they keep this fight going, they can put the pressure on. They can try to close it.
The health bars though, the healing from this Ocean Soul is so big.
TP back in.
TP in though.
Faker on the way. Keen needs to find a way out. Fear there. Knock back onto Keen! Right into the midst of the team, and now Duro and Ruler have to make all the difference, but Honor finds the reset! He's into the back line, it's him versus Ruler, but Ruler just takes it! They have to keep him running. They have to take him out of the equation. T1 should just finish it here. He's gliding! Flash! Pierce! He just continues to walk away. Marshall Poise trying to style on them, but the GA denied. Taken away, he'll find no value, and it is T1 find their man.
Look at the death timers! 60 seconds on Ruler! Keen still down as well! FT1 done the impossible!
Canyon. Vancouver alive.
Oh my gosh.
Vancouver hungry for more from
Chovy's
T1
up as well.
For game 5.
They just got to clear.
They have to keep pushing. The Ocean Soul will remain for Gen G as long as they stay in this game. T1 a brief glimmer, a brief moment to take it. They're
gonna back
away.
off.
Have to be happy with just the inhibitor, not willing to bet it, not willing to risk the lower bracket on a single push.
What a crazy extended fight. And in this, I want everyone to be watching the Guma damage, right? The damage coming out of this Corki across this entire fight was 15K. So as it gets separated, it ends up looking pretty all right for Gen G. They're like, okay, we can wait this out. Never mind, Canyon gets caught on the back line.
The fact that it's Doran that does it as well. The previous play on Tarula not working out, but here he takes out one of the biggest members of the team. And then I think here Gen G could have probably looked to exit just take 3 members, let it be, but they choose not to. Instead, opting into this fight, and T1 slow playing it beautifully.
Yeah, they slow play it, and again, when they get separated, right, they're able to take down Chovy in the MasterCard priceless moment of the game. Faker is going to end up teleporting and rejoining. Again, just so well done from T1 to kind of wait out. Whenever Gen.G split up, it ended up being disastrous for Gen.G.
Definitely is. Ruler a bit frustrated. Maybe thought he could dance his way out of that one and was damn close to doing it. But again, I want to call attention back to Doran. We mentioned it before with Faker, always going for the chains, always fishing for the angle. But in this game, it's been Doran fishing. And when it's worked beautifully. Both top laners so crucial to their team's success, even if their scoreline not spectacular. The Poppy ult, the Gragas ult, the tools to kick things off. The charm, though, might make the difference. He's been caught out. Owner missed the entire team trying to ult out the safety. Faker knocked entirely out of the fight. Canyon wants to follow, but Doran is there with the body slam to deny him access.
Disengage is there. Faker, or sorry, Chovy rather, keeps looking for these plays, but now Prio on Baron for Gen.G, and the ultimate for Owner is gone.
Shockwave.
Yeah, that's huge. Shockwave is
from
still
Faker
up.
can be big. Taking his time, waiting for the angle as Gen.G just descend on the objective. They know they have the advantage if it comes down to it. Contempt for the weak, the passive for the Zed. The E from the Kalista should finish it. That is Zed is Keen picked off. Eyes on Faker again with the shockwave. Gen.G desperate to burst through the objective. 6K, lower and lower. It should be impossible for Owner, but he might be able to make it happen. No, Gen.G get it, and Ruler's running rampant. Or they can't get to the backside. Ruler undodged. Double kill for T1. Objective down in Gen.G's favor, but again,
Doran.
The cost is too high. Guma stands tall, Doran on the chase. Chovy golden, but headed to silver, and it's the Quadra.
A quadra kill for Gumayushi. This Corgi is massive. The hero of this is Doran. This Gragas has been instrumental in these T1 fights. He showed up in playoffs to get them here. He's showing up massively again in this game.
T1 will not be denied a game 5. Once more into the fray.